Okay, we are live. Okay, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 152 of Security on the In30 Network. We have a softball topic today, and that we've actually never covered, which is just tracking. Nothing but just tracking. What kind of tracking? We don't know yet. We'll figure it out. We have 30 minutes to figure this out.
But before we jump into tracking, we're going to discuss something that's far more important, and that's security controls on hotel TVs. You see, I have a Nintendo video game console in front of me that I had just the worst time trying to turn on HDMI because for some reason they turned off the input controls on this television, and the remote I have can't enable the input controls. So a very nice person from maintenance brought up their master remote with a million buttons and was able to make my TV work normally. It's a big problem.
Did you remove the little tape off the HDMI port? Was that the secret?
Oh no, it was awful. Like, you can enable and disable features. Like, they've got stuff in there like, make sure that people can't mess with the picture menu so they don't, destroy the TV for the next guest, so we don't have to reset it every time. Yeah, that's fine. I get that. But it's HDMI ports, man. People have got like Rokus and laptops here. Just let the ports be free, man.
So is what they're trying to do is prevent you from hooking up a Roku or Chromecast and just using their bandwidth?
No, I don't think that's really the case. Because frankly, their bandwidth isn't good enough to support any kind of Netflix stream. I mean, we're barely doing this podcast, and I'm sure I'm stressing the poor Linksys in the corner that this hotel must have. It's more of they don't want people messing up the settings and having maintenance calls for all the new guests that come in and the TV is like in a weird configuration, or everything's in Spanish or something. So they lock it down a lot. The issue is that they lock it down too much. So they fall to the far side of security or kind of, paranoia and not convenience. So, which I don't think there's too much of an issue with enabling the ports on the back of the TV.
Now, with HDMI, does that have it? I mean, obviously it inputs, but can you bypass some sort of HDMI internal security and like screw up the TV?
Not that I'm aware of, but that's a topic I have not researched.
This is a good DEF CON topic, figuring out how to hack. I did see a DEF CON talking how to hack the key card codes.
If HDMI is direct memory access, I'm sure you could read the RAM contents of this cheap off-brand TV over here and dump all of the secrets of the channel guide.
So, well, maybe you can get the restricted channels, the clock channel, the weather channel. And
I was going to say Fox News is fully available here.
So tracking. So we're tracking you. So one of the topics that we don't really discuss, but we sort of assumed everyone knows, is when you click around the internet, what is it actually doing? And it's literally tracking you. And here's the conspiracy theory. Let's pick a topic with your friends. Like, write it down, make sure no one hears it, and say, make up something. Talk about aluminum siding. And this happens. Put all your phones in the middle and just start talking about aluminum siding. And then 3 or 4 days later, you start getting aluminum siding ads. And you're going to be like, wait, whose phone was left on? Which phone is listening? That's not actually how it works, but that's how it feels like. And I've told people to do this, and it actually happens. And turns out what actually happens is somebody searched for it tangentially or through something. Aluminum siding came up, and now all of a sudden it's on your brain, and it figured out that that's what you were looking for.
I hate when that happens because I don't like internet ads don't really do anything to influence me. If I don't know about a topic and I'm looking to buy something, like I bought an air conditioner, like a big stand-up air conditioner, because apparently AC inside of apartment buildings in Seattle is a rarity. And coming from the Midwest, I'm not used to that. It's weird. But I was, researching the best one, what kind of space can it cool down, all this stuff. And I went and I bought one. But then, I mean, for weeks since I bought this thing, I've been getting air conditioner ads everywhere, all the time, for everything. No, that problem's solved. You don't need to advertise to me it wouldn't have worked anyway because I know that brand sucks.
Well, okay, so we're talking about air conditioning. All of a sudden now, I've been looking up dash cams on Wirecutter. Okay, because we're talking, I don't know, we're interested in it. The town has had some issues, and all of a sudden they ran a thing on the best air conditioning. So you're saying air conditioning now, and all of a sudden, not like completely independent and mutually exclusive, I'm getting air conditioning ads as well.
Yep.
And this also stems from the fact that they retrofitted central air into my house, and I've been trying to figure out why it can't get to 72 degrees. It's like cranking and cranking and cranking. And I swear I did not look any of this up. Like I did not look up HVAC repair. I didn't look up anything. And all of a sudden I'm getting air conditioner ads. And I think what actually is happening is the Wirecutter. I was looking at Wirecutter stuff. They saw air conditioning. I probably clicked on it. And all of a sudden now I'm getting a whole bunch of other stuff because in my mind, I wanted to know more about air conditioning, even though I didn't search it up.
So Google, like big internet companies, especially big conglomerates, Facebook, Google, they know you're connected in some way. Facebook knows intimately how you're connected with other people, like relationship status, and get the whole social graph thing. Google is trying to do that, and they can sort of spider the web and figure out who knows who talks to who. They know you and I talk to each other because we're using Hangouts and we video chat on a regular basis. So they're probably looking at weather in your area. It's getting hotter. They know I looked for an air conditioner. I bought an air conditioner. They should know I live in a totally different area of the country now, but whatever. And they're probably trying to use some sort of social signals and weather signals to throw ads at you that may be relevant.
And then all of a sudden you click on something and now you get bombarded with those ads.
Exactly. And let me be clear. I don't think targeted advertising is evil. I think it has a lot of applications that could be beneficial that haven't been realized properly. I don't think it's effective at all. I've never, targeted ads to me are less effective than random advertisements. And that's an entirely different rant that we went on in the WhatsApp group, which you should totally join. But it's not evil, and tracking itself, gathering statistics isn't inherently evil. I now know, for instance, I do stats collection on my website, on my blog, and I do respect do not track. So if you have that enabled, it doesn't track anything. I'm not using Google Analytics. I'm using an open source tool. It's all stored on my server. And I know that certain blog articles on certain topics are more popular than others. I know that they show up in Google searches. So now I know if I want to drive traffic to my blog, these are the types of things I need to write about. These are the types of tutorials I need to make. It's very helpful for me as a content creator.
So, I mean, we were talking about this in the WhatsApp group, and if the choices are targeted versus non-targeted, I can see the appeal of both. To be honest with you, much rather targeted ads when they're done right. And that's the big asterisk there, when they're done right. Because a number of times I hate this when I search for something once and I never want to see it again. And then I get ads and ads and ads and ads for the same thing. And they could be questionable. It's like, I don't necessarily want this thing here that I was looking for to pop up all over at my work, when I'm signed in at work, or when I'm here at home, or on my laptop, or on my phone. Or the worst is when you already bought it and they're still showing you ads.
That's the thing I hate the most. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that, I take that back, because if you buy it online, Google should know, because I bought it online. Google should know that I bought an air conditioner, right? They're scanning Gmail. They should be able to go, okay, look, he bought one. He got the shipping notification. He got the notification that it had arrived on his doorstep. We'll stop showing you air conditioner ads because we know you have one already. The issue might be that they don't go far enough. That they go just far enough to be annoying, but not far enough to be useful.
So usually how it works for me is I see something, I'm interested in this. I see ads on ad choices. Then I pop open Amazon. I see how much it is on Prime because I much rather it be sent to me. Google doesn't know that I got it from Amazon, so they're still sending it. I've never gone through one of the Google Shop, Google Direct marketplaces to get something, because I mean Amazon is just so good at these things that I go from there. I mean, so maybe that's what it is. The problem is Amazon does the same thing. So after I bought it, I think they know that I bought it, but then they try to show me more relevant things like accessories for it or something with what the next person is, and it's like I bought diapers for my son. I don't need other. I mean, I don't need. I bought male diapers, male themed, I guess, whatever you want to call it, blue diapers, because I don't know gender here, and then I get things with pink in them in them. And it's interesting to know how that works.
So and Amazon's probably a good example. And in full disclaimer, I work for Amazon, but not the retail side. Opinions on my own, all that fun stuff. But I was looking at Nintendo Switch games because I just got a Nintendo Switch. And they're like, oh, hey, most people like the screen protector. It's really highly rated. It's cheap. It's Prime. You might be interested in this. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm very interested in that. And I bought it along with the game I was buying. So they, not all targeted ads are bad. I particularly like the ones on Amazon most of the time. They do get things wrong like anyone else.
So, I mean, so how does this work normally is way back when Google bought a company called DoubleClick. So just to even go further, if you think Google's a search engine, yes, they are a search engine. But I think at this point we can all agree that they are a data seller. So as you search, they're not making money off the search. They're making money off the ads that you click. I don't know how many people actually knew that. So they're trying to get more signals. So where you go, how you do things, your shopping habits. We even heard something recently that they found a way to track what you purchase offline. I don't know how they're doing it, but this all goes back to their hooks. So they give us Google Analytics. Well, the analytics say what browser you come from, what you're doing. I run it on my site just to see, hey, how many people am I getting? They bought a company called DoubleClick way. I want to say 2007 or 2000.
It was a long time ago.
And DoubleClick is the biggest online ad tracker on there. And then people run Google Ads. We run Google Ads on the In30 site. So all of this stuff, as you go there, In30, oh, you must be interested in security, or you must be interested in technology. You understand what podcasts are. You're doing it from a Mac. You probably have an iPhone and all these other little things. And Google and now Facebook have gotten really good at it. In fact, they're probably number 1 and 2.
So, which begs the question, how are they doing this, right? In the case of like Amazon or Facebook or Google, it's really easy to see how, okay, I search for air conditioners on Google, or I search for air conditioners on Amazon. They know I'm now interested in that thing. Amazon can, they know what I bought. They know when I buy it. Facebook, they know what I'm clicking on, what groups I'm a part of, the stuff like TV shows and music and movies that I'm liking. It's really easy for them to look on their back end, on the data they have, and make inferences. Most people who like Star Trek also like, this thing, like Doctor Who or something, and they can make those connections fairly easily. But what about Joe Schmo's random website, right? How are they tracking you? How is a random ad company that's not Google tracking you across the internet? And cookies are one of the ways that can happen, right? If you have third-party cookies enabled, which slowly but surely browsers are changing that to default to off. It does break some things in some small ways, but that's getting better. But they'll from DoubleClick will hand you a cookie on your computer, a little piece of data, and it's got a unique identifier in it. And that follows you around the web. And anytime you see another ad by DoubleClick or whoever, it'll say, hey, do you have any cookies for me? And your browser will hand back that unique identifier. So they know, okay, you went to this site and this site and this site and then this site. They can follow your click stream as long as all of those sites have DoubleClick ads on them. They can tell where you're going through the internet. Now, you can, clear your cookies, you can turn off third-party cookies, and that stops that. But what it doesn't stop is if the web server itself is sending back IP data, because when you're connecting to stuff on the internet, it's not a black box. You're not anonymous, right? You've got an IP address. You're connecting, and the web server undoubtedly is gathering logs. Most of the time, they're informal. Such and such IP asked for this path. I handed him this HTML file. End of transaction. It took this long. The file was this big. Stuff like that. But if you can get advertiser plugins and tracking plugins for essentially log reading, so you can track people based on the IP address. And if you send those all back to a central source, now you don't need cookies to track at least IP addresses around the internet.
So we got into cookies, and so the problem is, so what I do, by the way, is I delete all cookies when I shut down Chrome. And that's not exactly true. In Chrome, and I'm sure Firefox has the same feature, you can say delete all the cookies every time you shut down or you close the browser. But there's an exception thing. So I put an exception for Google and for Amazon and for Facebook, so I don't have to constantly log in to all these things. And that helps. I'm hoping that helps. I'm hoping that as I go to different websites that I tell explicitly don't track me and delete the cookies, that they don't know what I'm doing. But like you said,
even don't track me is a signal, right?
Yeah.
If I'm an advertiser, there's nothing technological saying that you have to accept do not track. Even in the open source tool I use, that's a checkbox. By default, it's turned on that says, hey, we're going to respect do not track. But if I want to, I can just shut that off. If someone says, hey, don't track me, don't gather my IP address, don't gather all this stuff, I can just say, no, gather everything you can all the time and be as invasive as humanly possible. And you can do that, right? An advertiser signal that you would get from someone sending you do not track is, okay, I now know this person, right? They may or may not have a cookie from me. And now I know that they're concerned about privacy and tracking, and I'm going to sell them security software. There's, the absence of a signal or trying to block tracking is in itself an advertising metric.
And so if you've noticed recently, and they got rid of the CAPTCHAs. So just stay with me for a second. So before, you would try to post a comment, it would say, what does this thing say? And they had all the noise there so bots couldn't do it. Google recently went to just a simple straight checkbox that says, I'm not a robot. And what that's doing, and if you want to talk about tracking, is that it's looking up all the metrics that make you feel like a human being. And when you click that, Google is saying, yes, this is a human and not a bot. And again, it's tracking all these different metrics. Now, if you do something weird, it says, uh-oh, we don't know, and it brings up a whole bunch of weird dialog boxes. Or if all of a sudden you went to incognito and it doesn't have any of these signals, but it's another way. This is all this data. One of the things, now Tom's not on Facebook, but I am, and I have a lot of friends that say, which Disney princess are you, or which food are you? They're not. Or like how BuzzFeed used to have how long you can survive a zombie apocalypse. What you're doing is you're giving them data, and then they're magically using their magic 8-ball to randomly pick something based on something slightly less random, but random nonetheless, to say, oh, I got this. What's your IQ? They give you some questions. Those questions have nothing to do with your IQ. They're just trying to see how you answer it. And some psychologist said, if you answer it this way, it means this, sending them back signals. And what you're doing is you're giving them free data.
Yeah, it's, fighting tracking, all online tracking is kind of, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but it's kind of a fruitless effort at this point. Like you can block cookies, you can turn off JavaScript, you can delete all cookies on Chrome shutdown. You can do all of these things, but at the end of the day, their web servers themselves are still collecting logs, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say the vast majority of those are completely innocent. I look at my website logs when Apache has a problem. Right. I look at my logs to diagnose issues because that's what I do. I'm an administrator. I don't look at logs for the purposes of tracking, but there are programs that do. And if you're initiating a TCP connection, if you're on a web browser and you're hitting a website, you're initiating a connection with that server. Your IP address could be and probably is getting logged somewhere, and you can use that as an advertising signal. You can still use that to track people. Back in the day, and even today, when JavaScript is disabled, people use the transparent pixel GIFs. So you use a 1x1 GIF image that's transparent. You put it somewhere on your page, and a remote web server where that pixel lives is now tallying the data, what page you hit that on, and what your IP address is, how long you sit on that page until you clicked another page. So when you click, it sends back, okay, they got to this page now, and the time between those two actions was this. There's a lot of different ways of tracking people across the internet, and it's almost impossible to get rid of them all. Actually, it is impossible to get rid of them all, because unless you can still use a VPN, and you can still hide your IP address, but that in and itself is a signal, right? If they see web pages being hit from a popular VPN provider, which, by the way, they do map those IPs. They know who runs the VPN servers. They're going to know, again, this person is interested in privacy, innovating, tracking, and we know they pay for privacy software. Fighting tracking is difficult, if not impossible, today. Not that we shouldn't keep trying, but it's a little fruitless at the moment.
Look, I've always said, like you said before, I rather an ad that's relevant to me than something completely random. The only time that it really bothers me is when I was searching for something that I didn't want somebody else to know, and then all of a sudden get an ad for that. And it goes back to what I said at the top of the show. Talk to something about your friends that you never thought of before and see what pops up, and you'll notice that it'll come up later. And that's a little scary when you have in your mind that you didn't do it. Most likely you did search for it because that came into your head when you were talking to your group of friends. So it gets weird. But usually that's how I find my recommendations for different things. Somebody says, well, why don't you read this article? And I go, oh, I want to read this. And now I have a new topic I want to talk to, or I want to search more information on. Like right now I've been looking up dash cam. So now I'm getting a whole bunch of dash cam ads. But we have 8 minutes left. Is there anything that's we can do maybe to stop a little bit of it? I mean, obviously we can't stop all of it. I mean, is there anything that will help us out a little bit?
There's some things that I do. I disable third-party cookies in my browser.
So when you do that, all those like buttons and the tweet buttons and the Google Plus ones and the Pinterest buttons, they stop working. Just FYI.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily? Okay.
Depending on the implementation. Because that could just be JavaScript hosted from Google servers, so technically it's the same thing. The site's not going to be able to give you cookies from that domain, but the domain itself can. So those should still work if I'm reasoning about this correctly. Correct me in the WhatsApp group if I'm wrong. But those should still work depending on implementation. So that's a decent first step. It may or may not be effective depending on the level of advertising on the site. Use a VPN or Tor to obfuscate your IP address. Again, that's a signal in and of itself. Disable JavaScript, which gets rid of a ton of stuff. uBlock Origin has actually got great anti-tracking lists that you can enable, and I believe one of them is enabled by default, and it's pretty good. It blocks Google Analytics, it blocks Piwik, the open source thing that I use. It's really nice. What you're not going to be able to stop is when you hit a website, there's a log cut somewhere, whether it's your IP or you're behind 7 proxies. Some ticker on that page in a log file somewhere has just recorded some IP address accessing that page. You could go totally nuts. You could go totally crazy. You could use Tor and only non-published Tor bridges while you're curling web pages on the command line to read text only, no graphics, no JavaScript, no CSS, and reading just plain text dumps of your websites. There is a pretty famous person in the open source community who actually does that. It's kind of nuts in my opinion, but it does happen. So you could get totally tinfoil hat on this, but honestly, I don't think you have to.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's we say we don't like it, but you know what? I take the flip side. Let's take the advertiser side, because we always have to do that and say, look, they're trying to sell you a product. If you're going to go to Amazon and spend a few more dollars, they're competing for that traffic. I was hearing something about car ads and big car, if you want to do it that way. They're putting these car ads, you're going to buy one, but if you buy that specific ad, you made that company a lot of money. But if Amazon can get you, or Target or Walmart or the big guys can get you to go to their site, buy this, and oh, by the way, buy something else and the accessories, they've made money off of you. And it didn't cost that much to throw up a whole bunch of ads. So, and again, you go to the newspapers, they obviously know you want to read the article free, but they also know they have to make payroll. So they're trying to find a way to get you to keep on coming back. And if they're giving you ads that you have no business or nothing for, they see it as a waste of time and effort. So they want to try and give you something that's important, or deliver news articles that are good, because if you like it, you're going to keep on going back, seeing more ads, and maybe buy something there.
And we should talk about the technological aspects of tracking, because this gets brushed aside a lot today. I want to make sure to mention it. Stuff like third-party cookies, and not all third-party cookies are evil in tracking, right? Probably a lot of them are, but not all of them. Those are really, really tiny, thin way of doing tracking. Now, big JavaScript tracking on mobile sites that just take forever to load or never finish loading, that's an issue. And that's one of the main reasons to block tracking, is just to make your website or your web browsing experience faster. Like Google Analytics tends to be really nice and really fast, and it doesn't slow stuff down. It does in a minuscule way, but nothing, terribly perceptible to the end user. But I've seen reports of tracking scripts running, just JavaScript running rampant on websites. And not only is it slowing down your phone when you're reading this, but it's trying to upload every little piece of data it can get its hands on about where you're mousing on the page, what you're clicking on, your scroll rate, the amount of time you spend looking at a certain segment of the screen. And it's chewing up, hundreds of megs of mobile data on, most people don't have an unlimited plan. And it's terrible the way some of these things are implemented. So you do have to be careful there. Rumor has it that Google is going to allow or put out their own ad blocker. I think that'll be interesting. I'm not holding my breath on something like uBlock Origin for Chrome on Android, but you can do that on mobile Firefox on Android, which is really nice. You could add uBlock Origin and block ads on Android for free, which is really cool.
And again, we're talking about uBlock Origin blocking ads, which is a function that it does, but it's trying to block tracking scripts, which again involve ads. And look, they're blocking tracking scripts. They're not explicitly blocking ads. But like, I went to a website yesterday or the day before and looking for a product. They showed me some product images underneath it, and not too much further underneath it. So if you were looking not closely enough, another 4 boxes of pictures, but they were the ad. I think it was a Google ad sending me to the store. But if you weren't looking at it close enough, it looked like the product images, but it was really an ad. And I don't know if Google's going to block those. So they're going to block offensive ads. So there'll be pop-ups. I thought we got rid of pop-ups, but pop-ups or pop-unders are back now. Or when you're on mobile and you scroll and all of a sudden they put a whole screen thing that you have to scroll past. All these really obnoxious ads. But again, if people are clicking on them, it must be working.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate. I know we've got some people that are, on, I don't want to say like the side of the advertisers, like it's a bad thing, but there's people that come from that world that understand this stuff from a perspective that, you and I don't have as end users and security people. And so if you would like to get in on those conversations, grab us on Twitter, Signal. It's our WhatsApp group. Ask around. We'll throw you in. Don't spam the group. We will ban you. We will ban you very fast, even if we're in the middle of a show. We have done that before.
Yes.
But it's a good time.
Look, tracking is a hard topic. We don't know what they're doing, and you can make a lot of money if you come up with a new signal to garner the population of people who have money and they're willing to spend it. So if you realize everyone who's using Tor at this exit node is 25 to 54 who make over $100,000 with no kids, and you can advertise to them frivolous toys that they may buy, and they do, you're set to make a lot of money.
I will buy all of the toys.
So basically and where we go from there, we don't know. But it seems like Google and Facebook are doing the right things, and they're just making hand over fist, just selling you ads based on signals that they collect. So
yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah. Again, any more questions, you know where to find us. We will talk to you next week.
See you, everyone. Everybody.